The school permission slip trembled in the father's hands as Pedro Pascal talked about family sacrifice and the lengths parents go to protect their children. Ellen was discussing the actor's latest role as a protective father figure when she noticed the man in the front row clutching what looked like legal documents while staring at his young daughter beside him with pure terror. What happened next would prove that sometimes the most important performances aren't on streaming platforms, but in courtrooms where fathers fight to stay with the children who are their entire world. It was an emotionally charged Thursday afternoon at the Ellen DeGeneres show, and the studio resonated with Latin warmth. 400 audience members had gathered to see one of television's most beloved father figures discuss his craft. Ellen, elegant in a sophisticated burgundy blazer with gold threading, was thoroughly enjoying her conversation with Pedro Pascal, who sat with characteristic intensity and warmth in the guest chair, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that couldn't hide the authentic vulnerability that had made him America's favorite TV dad, his presence filling the studio with that blend of strength and tenderness that had captured hearts worldwide. "Pedro," Ellen said, leaning forward with genuine admiration, "you've become this incredible father figure on screen, from The Mandalorian to The Last of Us. What draws you to these protective parent roles?" Pedro's eyes lit up with the passion that had driven him from struggling actor to global star. "Ellen, I think there's something universal about the lengths a parent will go to protect their child. It doesn't matter what obstacles you face, what sacrifices you have to make, what laws or systems try to separate you. A parent's love transcends everything, and that's the most powerful force I know." The audience responded with warm applause, many Latino families nodding with deep recognition. This wasn't just celebrity promotion. This was validation of experiences that felt personal. "And sacrifice," Ellen continued. "You've talked about your own family's immigrant experience, the courage it takes to leave everything behind for your children's future. How does that inform your roles?" "It means everything," Pedro said honestly. "My family came to this country looking for opportunity, for safety, for a chance to give their children a better life. But immigration isn't just about hope. It's about fear, too. The fear that everything you've built could disappear in an instant, that the life you've created for your children could be taken away." That's when Ellen noticed him. In the front row, slightly to the center, sat a man who appeared to be in his late 30s. He had dark hair and worn hands that spoke of manual labor, wearing a simple white button-down shirt that had been carefully ironed. Beside him sat a little girl who couldn't have been more than 8, with pigtails and a bright yellow dress that was clearly her very best outfit. His name was Miguel Hernandez, though Ellen didn't know it yet. What caught Ellen's attention was the way Miguel was staring at Pedro while clutching what appeared to be official government documents, tears streaming silently down his face as he looked between the papers and his daughter with an expression of absolute desperation. Miguel's hands were shaking as he held the documents, and Ellen could see him whispering prayers in Spanish while his daughter colored quietly in a small book, unaware of her father's panic. Ellen's instincts, refined through 20 years of reading her audiences, told her this wasn't someone moved by Pedro's words about parental protection. This was someone living the exact nightmare Pedro was describing. "Pedro," Ellen said gently, "hold that thought about everything being taken away in an instant. I think someone in our audience is facing exactly that situation right now." Pedro followed Ellen's gaze toward Miguel, his expression immediately shifting from entertainer to deeply concerned advocate as he recognized the signs of someone in genuine crisis. Ellen stood up from her chair and took several steps toward the audience. "Sir in the front row with the papers, are you okay?" Miguel looked up, terrified by the sudden attention of 400 people and multiple cameras. He clutched the documents tighter and shook his head quickly, clearly panicking. "I'm fine," Miguel said in accented English, his voice thick with emotion and fear. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt." Ellen walked down the steps that separated the stage from the audience, something she did only when every instinct told her someone needed immediate help. "What's your name? And who is this beautiful little girl?" Ellen asked, now standing directly in front of Miguel's row. "Miguel Hernandez. This is my daughter, Sofia. She's 8 years old." Ellen knelt down in the aisle beside Miguel's row, her burgundy blazer spreading around her as she created a safe space in what clearly felt like terrifying exposure for Miguel. "Miguel, what are those papers you're holding?" Miguel looked down at the official documents, then at his daughter, who was now looking up with curious eyes, then back at Ellen with such raw terror that it made everyone in the studio understand they were witnessing a family's worst fear. "Deportation notice," Miguel whispered. "I have to report to immigration court next week. They want to send me back to Honduras, but Sofia, she was born here. She's American. If they take me, I don't know what happens to her." The studio fell into that profound silence that happens when hundreds of people confront a father's nightmare playing out in real time. From the stage, Pedro Pascal stood up immediately. Without being asked, without consulting producers, he walked down to join Ellen and Miguel. This celebrity interview had just become something infinitely more urgent. Pedro approached Miguel with the reverence of someone who understood that this man represented millions of families living in fear. "Miguel," Pedro said in fluent Spanish, then translated for the audience. "¿Cuánto tiempo llevas aquí? How long have you been here?" 12 years, Miguel replied, switching to Spanish with relief before translating. "I came when I was 25, running from gang violence in Honduras. I've worked construction, paid taxes, never got in trouble. Sofia is my whole life." Pedro knelt beside Ellen, creating an intimate circle that included young Sofia, who was now looking between the adults with the kind of awareness children develop when they sense their world is unstable. "Miguel," Pedro continued in Spanish, then English. "Tell me about Sofia. What is she like?" Miguel's face lit up despite his tears as he looked at his daughter. "She's brilliant. Straight A's in school, wants to be a doctor. She speaks perfect English, perfect Spanish. She helps other kids in her class who don't speak English yet. She's everything I hoped America could give her." Ellen felt tears welling in her own eyes as she watched this interaction unfold. "And you've been raising her alone?" Ellen asked gently. "Since she was 3, Miguel admitted. "Her mother left us, said she couldn't handle the stress of always hiding, always being afraid. It's been just Sofia and me ever since." Pedro's expression had shifted into something Ellen had rarely seen from any celebrity, a fierce paternal protectiveness that transcended performance. "Miguel," Pedro said with quiet intensity, "what you've done, raising Sofia alone while living in fear every day, working to build her a future while never knowing if you'd be here to see it, that's not just courage. That's love in its purest form." Sofia tugged on her father's shirt and whispered something in Spanish. Miguel's face crumbled as he listened to his daughter. "What did she say?" Ellen asked gently. "She asked if the nice people are going to help us stay together," Miguel translated, his voice breaking. "She's 8 years old, and she knows her father might disappear." Pedro reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his personal phone. "Miguel, I'm going to do something right now. I'm calling my immigration attorney. She's one of the best in Los Angeles, and she's going to represent you pro bono." Miguel stared at Pedro in disbelief. "But why would you help me? I'm nobody." "You're not nobody," Pedro said firmly, his voice carrying the authority that had made him a compelling leading man. "You're a father who has spent 12 years building a life for his daughter. You're a taxpayer, a community member, a man who deserves dignity and protection. Ellen stood up slowly, her heart racing as she realized they were witnessing a potential family separation that could be prevented. Miguel, do you have any legal representation right now? I can't afford a lawyer, Miguel said. I've been representing myself, but I don't understand all the legal language. I work 60 hours a week in construction, but it's not enough for rent and food and lawyers. Pedro's voice grew stronger. Miguel, you're not going to fight this alone anymore. My attorney will handle your case, and we're going to explore every legal avenue to keep you and Sofia together. Ellen began removing her burgundy blazer. Miguel, this blazer has been with me through some of my most important interviews, but today it's witnessing something more important than any celebrity story. It's witnessing a father's love. She placed the blazer around Miguel's shoulders. You came here today carrying the weight of possible separation from your daughter. But you're not carrying it alone anymore. But it was Pedro's next gesture that brought the entire studio to tears. He knelt down to Sofia's eye level and spoke to her in Spanish. Sofia, tu papá es muy valiente. Your father is very brave, and we're going to make sure you stay together because families belong together, no matter what any government paper says. Sofia looked up at Pedro with wide eyes and said in perfect English, Are you really going to help my daddy not go away? Pedro's voice caught with emotion. Yes, sweetheart. We're going to help your daddy stay right here with you. Pedro stood up and addressed the cameras directly, switching seamlessly between English and Spanish. If there are families watching this who are living in fear of separation, who are fighting to stay together, please know that you are not alone. This country is stronger when families like Miguel and Sofia's are protected and valued. The moment that brought the entire studio to sustained applause came when Ellen asked Sofia what she wanted people to know about her father. Sofia answered in both languages, her young voice carrying wisdom beyond her years. My daddy works really hard so I can go to school and have nice clothes and food. He helps me with homework even when he's tired. He teaches me about Honduras and America both, so I know where I come from and where I belong. He's the best daddy in the whole world, and America should want him to stay because he makes it better. Pedro's composure broke completely at the child's eloquence. Sofia is absolutely right. America should want fathers like Miguel to stay. Within days, Miguel Hernandez had the best immigration attorney in Los Angeles working on his case pro bono, courtesy of Pedro's legal team. His case became a spotlight for comprehensive immigration reform, and his deportation was not only halted, but his path to permanent residency was expedited due to his clean record and community ties. 4 months later, Miguel and Sofia appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show again. But this time, Miguel was holding his work authorization card, and Sofia was beaming with pride. Pedro Pascal, who had stayed personally involved in their case, appeared in person to celebrate their victory and announce the launch of a legal aid fund specifically designed to help families facing separation. The segment sparked a national conversation about the human cost of immigration enforcement and the importance of keeping families together. Miguel became an advocate for immigrant fathers' rights, speaking at rallies about the reality that behind every deportation case is a child who might lose their parent. Ellen learned that day that her job wasn't to interview famous people about their latest projects. Her job was to create moments where policy became personal, where families could be saved, and where the American dream could be preserved for those who embodied its values. Pedro Pascal learned that the most important fatherly performances happen not on television sets, but when you use your platform to fight for real fathers who need real help protecting real children. And Miguel Hernandez learned that sometimes when you think you're about to lose everything, that's exactly when angels show up speaking your language, understanding your fear, and reminding you that in America, at its best, fathers and daughters belong together. Because the most powerful stories aren't always the ones with special effects and dramatic music. Sometimes they're the ones that play in immigration courts, where fathers fight to keep their children, where love proves stronger than borders, and where families discover that sometimes heroes look like actors who choose to use their fame for something more important than entertainment.